Hi everyone, I'm Paul Hodgen and welcome back to our farm. I want to give you a pre-harvest update of how the growing season's gone since our last video. Today is Friday, September 3rd, to give you a date, reference 2021. Since our last video, the crop was coming up. We had a really good June, and in early July, right after we got done with wheat harvest, and while we were harvesting our wheat, we got some rain, got a really good rain that set this crop, the corn crop, up for a great grain fill pollination window. We filled a lot of ears, as you can see here in my hand along the edge of the field here. Had a really good growing season. It was warm, but wasn't overly hot. And then after that rain in early July, we went 6 weeks at this particular farm without any rain. We watched it rain all around us, but it was one of the drier times we've had here in quite some time. But with the no-till and the soil moisture, we had enough water to keep the crop going, and we're expecting a pretty good yield here. I do think we lost a little bit of the top end yield with it being that dry for that long, but we're expecting record yields here in Indiana in both corn and soybeans. And later today, to give you an idea, we're actually going to start harvest. This field we're standing, we're going to be starting to shell this corn here hopefully later this afternoon. The local ethanol and processing plants nearby are screaming for corn. They're wanting us to get in there. There are a couple other producers that are already harvesting corn, started yesterday and the day before. So harvest is rolling here. It is an early start for us. That dry spell in late July and August really spurred the crop along, the mature. We're also planting earlier varieties and hybrids. We will be starting soybean harvest Tuesday or Wednesday of next week as well. But one of the things that we have changed over the years is recognizing here in Indiana how much corn gets used and shipped out, that come the end of the season right before harvest, there's normally a pretty good bid to get some crop in and get it going. So we've actually shifted our management over the past couple of years and are planting some early maturing corn and early maturing soybeans to capture a premium for that market. So this corn here is actually what we call a 101-day variety. So very short season for us, but with the premium we're going to get for getting it in and getting harvest started, makes it worth us doing. So that's one of the things that we've changed here. We're going to take you to the soybean field and show you kind of where our beans are at and our early beans. But we're very excited for this harvest. I think it's going to be a good one. Hopefully the weather cooperates and we can get it in and get into the bin. So I want to take a moment and talk to you about one of our cropping rotations we've recently brought back into our farm. So this is double crop soybeans. So we harvested the wheat in early July, late June. This particular field I think was harvested on July 2nd. After we finished up wheat harvest, we came in here and planted soybeans. We have enough of a window to get a small soybean crop off of the field after we harvested the wheat. These beans will be killed by the frost whenever that happens. We're hoping for a middle of October time frame, so we get as much yield as we can. But we had a really good wheat harvest year here. Very high quality wheat. Very little was wrong with it. We got it harvested in a timely fashion, and we're able to come in here and plant these beans. So we're getting an extra crop off this field, and we're trying to expand this rotation as well. So we'll have corn, and then we'll come in and plant soft red winter wheat and double crop soybeans, and then come back to corn. And that rotation of the wheat double crop beans and then followed by the corn crop sets us up for the highest chance of making what we call bonus bushels in the corn crop the following year. This rotation helps increase the yield of the corn the following year. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to bring it back in here. The price for wheat is good. The price for soybeans said plant them. The crop, the market was saying we need all the beans we can get. So it really is coming into a good rotation for, especially when you add in the extra yield to the corn the following year. I want to talk a little bit about the beans here. Just pulled this plant at random here, nothing special about it, but you can see it's low with pods, good branching, and that's one of the things that we've seen with early planted beans. As we talked about that dry spell that happened here in August, these beans received that early rain and were able to produce a really nice crop here, and they were maturing and finishing up as it got dry here the last couple of weeks. Some of our later planted beans and fuller season beans, we're trying to fill that grain out right during the middle of that dry spell. So we've seen some spots of the field that are dry that will suffer from yield, but overall here in west central part of the state of Indiana, we're expecting a very good bean yield. May not be a record, but it will be very, very strong. So as I mentioned before, we've kind of moved our maturity of our crop up, some that we're planting. So we're actually planting a wider window of maturity of crops. It's not that we've stopped planting fuller season crops, it's just we've shifted some acres to an earlier season crop. And those will be the ones that would come in and try to plant wheat behind and get the wheat going, and then the double crop beans, then the corn back on top of that. What we've seen with the improved genetics of the early season stuff is that we are giving up a little bit of yield potential with it being early, but it's still extremely good yields for us. But it will be some of the lower yielding stuff that we have on the corn side, just because we don't have as long as grain filling period. But we're compensating that with earlier premium, getting harvest started, and moving along with that. Every day of harvest here in Indiana in September is worth 2 days in November. So with the later falls that we've had, if we can be done as before middle of November, that is our goal. And with us moving the crop up and getting started, we will hopefully we can exceed meet that goal. As far as commercial drying right now and putting extra stress on the crop for corn, I don't anticipate us having to dry a bunch of corn right now, given how warm and dry in the forecast for our crop. I think we'll be able to see it dry down nicely in the field, so we don't have to worry about a bunch of stress cracks from commercial drying and having to dry a bunch of moisture out of the grain. Right now, we're not, unless something drastically changes, the crop is going to dry down in the field, and we should not have to spend a lot of money on propane and commercial drying. Soybeans, we'll harvest them at maturity, at dryness, and keep them going. From the early season beans, we were actually seeing a yield benefit from planting early beans. I know several operations that have just moved completely to early beans, and they feel that these are their best beans. And looking at what we're going to harvest here, I would say we're going to continue to plant early beans, and the yield premium and the fact that we can get them harvested in September and get things moving along here, the earlier beans do work for us, and we will continue to use them.